What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the show. So I'm going to show you Fox Business today. They're going to be talking about the jobs report. And the information coming in regards to jobs is not good. And you're going to see these Fox hosts try to tap dance around this and lose it a little bit because they were shocked at the numbers that came out. So that's what we're going to focus on in this video. But first off, if you guys watch this video and you find this information informative, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. Okay, so let's go ahead and we'll play the clip first. And actually, you know what? We're going to do this side by side because I'll probably stop and talk a little bit as they talk about this jobs report. Here we go.
Yep, I sure do. 22,000 jobs added in the month of August. That was much less than the expectation of 75,000, guys. The July number was revised. I will get to revisions in a moment. Unemployment rate coming in as expected, 4.3%. So that would be higher than July's 4.2%. Again, 22,000 jobs added in August. Let me get you the revisions because this is what everybody is focused on. For June and July together, combined 21,000 jobs lower than previously reported. I'll categorize that now. So you see for June, it was revised down by 27,000, getting you to negative 13,000, and the change for July up by 6,000, getting you to 79,000. Healthcare added 31,000 jobs, guys. The federal government continued to decline. Federal government in August down 15,000 and is down by 97,000 since its peak in January. Manufacturing employment changed little, down 12,000, down 4 months in a row, down 78,000 over the year. I'll send it back to you as I continue to go through this report. But as you can see, the market, at least the Dow, lifting off the lows in the pre-market on this data, weaker than expected.
It really did, Charles Payne. And really quick, I just want to say here, private payrolls coming in. The expectation was 75,000. We got 38,000. And there was a loss of 16,000 jobs in government, which I think Lauren mentioned. But again, you know, that 22,000 number, Charles, it's a weaker than expected number. And these revisions are pretty brutal.
Yeah, extraordinarily. You know, gone through. I mentioned healthcare, 31,000. The 12-month average is 42,000. That had been obviously a massive driver, and we know the demographic situation there. Just a little disappointed. Manufacturing was hoping to maybe see something there. But it's just, I think for the most part, if there was a whisper number, and I'm sure there was, this might be right where the whisper number is. And this is a sweet spot, I think, from the market's perspective. You can see the major averages are moving higher. It's not so bad that we're thinking recession, but it's bad enough that we think maybe the Fed could be much more accommodative beyond September.
And so you see those hosts, they're losing it, but you see them try to downplay it. Okay, we're not moving into recession, but maybe the Federal Reserve will see more cuts past September when it comes to interest rates. But this isn't good news. You saw June, negative 13,000. And so the first time since 2020, we're seeing numbers like this. And you saw they were talking about federal jobs, and I can't remember the exact number that they put out there, but the loss of federal jobs. Guess what? We've seen a lot of Doge. We've seen a lot of people being laid off over the last few months. And now we're really seeing the impact of those layoffs. And some of those people, remember, they were laid off, but they were still getting paid until a certain point. Now, I want to talk a little bit about how they come up with these revisions and why we're seeing revisions, because that was something that President Trump was very angry about just last month, and that's why he fired the head of BLS. And so the way that it works is the federal government will send out these surveys. So BLS, Bureau of Labor Statistics, they will send out these surveys to different companies. And it's up to the companies to send those surveys back in a reasonable amount of time. And sometimes they don't get it back within the month. And so they don't have all of that information yet. And so the companies might send it out a month or 2 months later. And so that's why they have to do the revisions, because they'll get the information late and then they'll say, okay, we need to revise these numbers. And that's why you're seeing the drops. And sometimes you might see an increase just based on the information that's coming from these different employers. And so it's very important to understand it that way, because what some people have been thinking, or some people have been playing, you have politicians out there saying this, you have President Trump out there saying this. Why are they doing these huge revisions? What's going on in BLS? We have to, fire the head of BLS because of these numbers. And that's just not the case. It's the way the system works. You send the information out and the companies send that information back to you. And once you get that information, then you're able to update the information that you've already provided. And then when we look at the August prediction was going to be somewhere around 70,000. we ended up only seeing 22,000. And we could only imagine that we'll see revisions to August numbers, and those August numbers could drop into the negative as well. And so we very well could be dropping into a recession. Now, Fox News, they didn't want to put it out there like that, but these numbers definitely aren't good. And when you have a prediction of 70,000 and you see 22,000, there's a problem. The economists are thinking that we're here, but when we get the numbers back, we're actually down here. Let's go ahead and take a look at some of these numbers up close. So if we go back to January 2025, we had 111 new jobs created. February 2025, 102,000 jobs created. March, we had 120,000 jobs created. April, we had 158,000 jobs created. And then this is where we started to see a drop. So in May, we had 19,000 jobs created. In June, we saw this minus 13. So we saw a loss of jobs. And this is the first time since 2020 that we've seen a loss in jobs. In July, we saw 79,000 jobs created. And then in August, we saw 22,000 jobs created. Now, the fear here, when the 22,000, I talked a little bit about this, but I'll say it again, 22,000, that's a very low number. If we see revisions to August, which we will see revisions to August, and so what will we be looking at with the revisions here? Will it drop below? Will we see this in the negative territory that we saw in June? And so looking at this 22,000, this is not a lot. And so we could potentially see this drop down into the negative as well once they do the revisions. And so just to go over this one more time, in August, we saw 22,000 jobs added, and unemployment rate right now is 4.3%. And if you want to go back to January of 2021, you see here, this is what we're looking at. Now, we saw in January, we saw negative numbers. We saw those negative numbers as a result of COVID, and then we started to see jobs increase, drop here, increase a little bit, drop, and you see it's kind of gone up and down, up and down. But once we hit, I would say, January of 2024, we started to see, actually even back further, we could say the middle of 2023, we started to see pretty even numbers here. They weren't really going up or down too much. We saw a little bit of a dip here, a little bit of a dip here, and then we evened out here in January, beginning in January. But now we're looking at these dips, and some of these dips, or at least one of these dips, is dropping below. So that's a loss of jobs in June. And also, if we look at the unemployment rate, we saw back October of 2021, we're at 4.5%. Then we dropped down here, and we leveled out about here in July 23rd, I would say. Then we increased just a little bit, and we've been kind of on a ride here, going up, down, and now we're at 4.3%. But remember, we started from COVID, and then we moved down, which is good, and then we started to level off, which is fine, but then we started to increase again, starting in really July of 2023. And so I just wanted to update you with what's going on when it comes to jobs. And this is a really scary time at this point, because the Federal Reserve is most definitely going to have rate cuts in September, so this month. Will they have further rate cuts in the future? And that's probably going to happen. But the danger is that inflation is still high, and inflation is on the way up. And so if you cut interest rates with inflation being on the way up, that's not going to be good for inflation, because inflation is probably going to go even higher. And so although you're cutting interest rates to try to jumpstart our economy, to get it back on track, you're also facing the reality that we're going to see higher inflation. And we're not even talking about tariffs right now. We're just talking about the fact that the Federal Reserve is now really being forced to do these rate cuts. And because of that, it's going to make it more desirable to borrow money, to spend money. You spend more money, inflation is going to go up. So I want to know what you guys think, so let me know in the comments below. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. Please subscribe for more, and I'll talk to you in the next one. Bye. So that's all we have for this video. Make sure if you guys want to send me an email, you can do that, david@thetecshow.com. Like the video, subscribe for more, and check out these videos over here for some more great content. Talk to you later. Bye.